Let's get some laminating done after just countless problems and just massive maintenance day, like almost 8 hours working on guns. Demoulding day is a very interesting day. It's exciting, it's worrying, it's one of those things where if you pop it off and it's not right, you know you got to start it all again. But demoulding day, you need to get prepared, and tools for doing that can range anything from plastic wedges, sledgehammers. It just depends on the beast you're about to tackle. Okay, so it's 8 o'clock on Friday night. I gelled these up on Wednesday night, laminated the first layer on them last night because I had major problems with that new pump. I've learnt so much about it today. I had a pretty nasty incident which I probably won't elaborate on too much, but let's just say thank Christ I had my gear on, because it basically, the accumulator exploded resin into my face, and lucky I had some glasses on, got a little bit in my mouth, a little bit of a spit, and washed it down with a beer. The big gun system down into my factory. It's about 120 kilos, this thing in total, with a resin pot. So it's not an easy thing, particularly because my stairs are pretty narrow. But luckily Neil and John and Josh gave me a hand. But it's sitting here. I've now set up my system here. You can see my setup. I'm ready to come in early in the morning. I've just sanded this all back and got any little raised dags off it. So I'm going to come back in the morning. I'm still within a working time, and whack another couple of layers on. So I didn't actually get any layers on today, but you'll notice how I put my hose up here. I've put it up out of harm's way. I've had a massive clean up in here. I was just about to start at lunchtime to start spraying another layer on, and my Graco gun, funnily enough, hasn't been used for about a month because I've been doing bulkhead templating and everything. Essentially, this section here, see how it moves back and forth with the trigger? See that little gap there? I don't know whether you can see, it's not very in focus. That wasn't moving, so that sparked a complete 3-hour rebuild of this gun, and man, you can't stress enough the importance of servicing these things, and don't ever get into this game if you don't have an ability with fixing these sorts of things, because the last thing you want to happen while I'm laminating a mold or a module like this is to have a problem with the gun. So I have a bit of a regime that I go through that ensures that everything's working as I want it to work, because once you're all geared up and there's resin hitting the fan, and I'm talking literally, it is hitting every surface in this room, you can't have a massive cock up. I'm meticulous. I've serviced my machine, the big machine. I've serviced this gun entirely today to make sure that every O-ring's greased, every pathway of air assist is clear, there's resin out of all the sections, and you know, funnily enough, I found resin in this today that I've never seen in the year and a half that I've owned it. So don't think it's not going to hit you in the face. Something that hit me in the face today was that I've got to wear full safety gear. Once again, you're never ever dealing with this stuff without full safety gear, and I'll go into that little machine because it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. They gel coated this thing to perfection. The next day it wasn't so hot, and I'll go into why I had the problem yesterday when I was laminating this, and I ended up finishing this module by hand mixing because I just had to get a tie layer on the gel coat, or risk having to peel that off and start again, because gel coat will only stay tacky for, you know, a good 8-9 hours, and then it starts to get dust on it and crap everywhere. So lots to learn. There's always lots to learn, and you know, the funny thing is that I was supposed to have these pricks another 2 layer on today, and didn't happen. So don't expect the unexpected on the mould. That's the way it is when you're building boats. There's always going to be delays, and I'm now a further 2 days on delayed, probably to add to the other 6 months that I'm already behind what I think was possible, just purely out of logistics. And you can't think of everything. And just problem solve, problem solve, problem solve. And we've been able to do that today. And now I've got 2 perfectly good systems ready to go. I could have done without bringing that big mother down. But anyway, it'll go back up when I go to do the bulkheads. Morning guys, it's the day after. I'm about to lay up the second layer. I've given them a light sand, a bit of a styrene white, and I'm ready to go now. So here we go guys, let's get some laminating done after just countless problems. So my next layer on these modules is 600 double bias. I've got 2 300 tie layers of 300 CSM, so that's pretty much where that ends. I'm going to give it a light styrene wipe, and then I'm going to sit this in place dry, because I found, particularly with my gun, I'm able to really wet it out well if it's in place. Normally I would wet the surface and then lay it down, but because this moves in sort of 4 different directions, it's like a multi-stretch, it only has a 45 going each way. It will conform to just about any shape with enough working, and I figure if I put it on dry and get all my overlaps right and really almost template it, I'll save myself a lot of time while I'm actually sticky and messy. And it's Saturday night and I'm here listening to footy. You know, I've got the rugby league on, St George is playing the Rabbitohs. So as I want to come up about 5, so that would make over there 2 by 90, so 78 by 90. Just wanted to show you something. This is my cutting table. I made this years and years ago. I was in one of the local, I guess you'd call it a haberdashery or a craft shop, where my wife Janet was buying some material for a set of cane lounges we had, and I saw their cutting table, and what it is, it's got an aluminium track routed in. I routed the slot, put the track in, and what that allows you to do is to put your scissors in the slot, and makes it much easier to cut your cloth. You're less likely to jag the end and put it all out of shape. And I use this particularly on this carbon Kevlar that I've got here when I'm making kayaks. I use this in particular because if you catch this on Kevlar, you'll almost destroy a piece. You'll destroy the cosmetic of it. So I found that if you're cutting cloth, you know, a simple piece of sort of 6 or 7 millimeter square aluminium tubing or U-shaped tubing, put into routed into a table like this is just a winner when it comes to cutting cloth. I always make a little mark with a like an indelible marker, I guess you'd call it, or a permanent marker, and that allows me to move the cloth straight down to my cutting channel, enabling me to keep a dead straight cut. There we go, and then we'll just put the scissors in. A bit hard to see from that ray gun feed out of the way, and I'm able to cut without any line. Also, without catching the tip of the scissors or the shears on that cloth, because if you do that, it's going to push it all out of shape. Alright, so you sort of come to where you want it. And another thing I did too is I sanded fairly heavily by hand, just with some 80 grit sandpaper, and just took any little raised pieces of glass from today's session. So you can see here, in this things like these corners here, with the double bias, if you're just gentle with it and just massage it into place, you can get it to fit without having to trim it. And that's the beauty of this stuff. Unlike the 1200 that needs to be cut, but we can get this stuff to the point where it almost conforms perfectly to the shape of your mould without being brutal with it. So I'll fold it back like this, and then I'll laminate this part, I'll spray this, consolidate this down with my roller, and then I'll do the top part. You can see how complicated just a simple rebate like this can be on a very, very simple mould. And you know, the best way is to get it templated as much as possible. We want to try to make this as smooth and as even as possible. Right, so you can see what I'm doing here. I've allowed right in this corner here, which is actually, when you look at it, it's actually the top of the bed bunk, which is basically, I'm sitting essentially on the chamfer panel or on the bridge deck, and then it comes down. So this is right at the top. So we want that to be very, very strong. There's going to be people kneeling on it, climbing on it up into the bed, up into the bunk. But I've allowed down here a 50mm overlap underneath and over the top. Now, by doing it there rather than somewhere else, I've increased the strength of that ridge, doubled it effectively. I've always tried to overlap on those sharp edges where there could be weakness, and any sort of weakness in that point there will create star cracking, and we see it a lot in boats. I see a lot of boats that come down here, particularly bits and pieces coming in for repair, where the stress cracking is occurring on points of edges where people are climbing on them, and you know, boats moving, whatever. Always try to double overlap. And the overlap should be at least 50mm. I mean, I'd like to go for 150mm in the structure of the boat, but here it's important that, you know, I don't have gel coat star cracking and stuff on in bedroom modules. I don't want to be repairing the boat at all. I just want to finish the mother and get it on the water. Once again, 50mm overlap on steps, on the step edge, so that, and that's going to have a timber fiddle on top of it, so, or a timber tread, but it's still important to reinforce underneath. There's still a lot of pressure when someone climbs on a step, particularly me. You're going to end up with star cracking in your gel coat and in the movement in the structure. And I'm also going to add some reinforcement where this touches the chamfer panel. I intend to put in a foam glass bulkhead as well onto the diagonal here to match the chamfer panel, and that way I'm able to really get some strength as well as the actual outside flanges onto the bulkhead. So there's plenty of ways to make it structurally sound. It's just a matter of thinking it through at this stage rather than once the bloody thing's in the boat. So as much as you try, you're always going to end up where there's a pleat, and you can't avoid it. So a snip is definitely the best medicine there. You don't want to have too much bunching up in this place here, so I'm just going to give that a really neat snip on the diagonal to that point there. And if you're concerned about having a bunch up, just whack a bit of peel ply on it once you've laminated. A little bit of peel ply on it, walk away. Tomorrow it's going to be dead flat. And a little sacrificial piece of peel ply will save you half an hour of friggin' bloody sanding the friggin' thing. So about 45 minutes of preparation. The thing is totally sheathed, ready to laminate up. I think it's important for me to state that I hate wasting time on a job, but I find once I'm dealing with the gun, the resin, topping up the resin, Luckily I don't have to deal with catalyst. Rollers, keeping them fresh, keeping them clean, because in the heat that I worked in today, it was 34 degrees here today. My roller, I threw out 2 rollers. You know, you just don't have the working time. So if I've got to cut this crap as well as laminate it down, I'm better off coming up here overnight when it's nice and cool, take my time, template it out. I'm ready to come in tomorrow and I can just spray that as it is. I'm not going to, I'm going to remove pieces and put them on, but I know I've got that thing exactly correct. Oh, we're into extra time. I'm up here on a late Saturday night listening to my game, and bang, we're in extra time. It's tied at 80 minutes, so not happy. Second module here, pretty much starting to get the templating happening here, and I'll have it finished pretty soon. But yeah, really great stuff to work on all these contorted shapes I've got. That this 600 double bias just loves it. Righto team, so a good couple of hours later, I've got the port module, starboard module, all templated up. Pretty much there's only a tiny little gap down here, and I can fix that. But that will mean that I can just come in tomorrow, peel a little bit back, spray, laminate, and pretty much template it up and spot on and ready to laminate. The other thing I've done too, by patting it down, I've also removed a lot of air out of it already. So getting it as flat as you can before you start is one of the best tips anyone can ever give you, because you're not trying to laminate or consolidate with a roller all the time. You're pretty much just putting resin in, consolidating, and getting on with it. Now you'll notice little areas like this corner here, this one here, and up here I've got a lot of overlaps. I'm probably going to peel ply all those sections, just so I know that I'm going to end up with a lot of sanding at the end if I don't. So I'd love to peel ply the whole job, but I really need to get another layer on it as quick as I can. Well, good morning guys. It's the next morning. Remember last night I put all these 600 double biases on these modules. I've actually covered the other one while I'm spraying, because I don't want any overspray affecting the surface of the cloth. Very important that, because overspray will set it off and you end up with a cloth that's too hard, have to go back to square one. So giving it a quick cover, not a big deal. Remember also with a spray gun, when you're spraying, there's a lot of air moving around, so I've actually weighed these covers down to stop them from moving around. Now one thing I do is I always fold back so that I've got a bit of working room, because the last thing you want to do is set off a piece of cloth beside a piece that you're working on, and then have it basically gelling before you even get a chance to get the thing consolidated down with your consolidating roller. So there's a couple of things you got to think about. So I'll peel this back. I've got a good foot or so of working room, then I can move on to the next piece. So it's going to be a big day. I've got about 6 hours straight here, so let's get into it. The laminating of these modules might seem and look pretty straightforward, but it did actually require quite a lot of brush work and pretty intricate roller work in amongst these steps. Here you can see where I'm putting the layers of 600 double bias around these steps. The amount of brush work there probably took about 4 times longer than it would take to do a flat surface. So it's important to remember these things when you're factoring in your time. It doesn't seem to matter how long you think it's going to take, it always takes about 4 times longer. I think this one particular module took me around 2 hours to get all of those layers consolidated down, and then this particular module, the starboard bed suite, probably took me at least 3 to 3.5 hours to get it all down. And you can see here where I'm spraying the resin, and then I have to lift up the sections and then make sure I've consolidated the cloth underneath prior to putting the second layer down, or anywhere where there was any overlap or any rebate. But all in all, it went down pretty nicely, and I ended up with a very, very nice finish at the end of the day. So pretty happy with the result, and it's time for demolding now.
Yeah, you got a bit more glassing to do yet, son?
Yeah, I got one more on this, one more left.
No, I mean the whole boat.
You're going to be here, mate, then you won't.
Oh yeah, I'll be watching. Aye, aye, Captain.
Morning, everyone. Demolding day. It's now about sort of 8-9 days since I started the polishing, restoration, waxing, preparation of the 2 cabin modules that I have here. Now I need to complete these before I can actually start putting the bulkheads in, because I need to know whether I need to adjust these or not. But demoulding day, you need to get prepared, and tools for doing that can range anything from plastic wedges, pieces of cardboard, hammers, sledgehammers. It just depends on the beast you're about to tackle. I'm hoping this one's going to go well, because I did spend a lot of time preparing this, as I've done with all my moulds. It's just some of them tend to stick because you've got a lot of these small contorted shapes. Now look at the product that you're trying to remove off your mould and pray that you're going to get the demoulding process right. Now what that means is making sure that you lift it or bang it out in the correct way, that it's going to pop off the mould and you're not forcing it to twist or bend or whatever, because it can be a fairly aggressive process. Now I try to make my life as easy as I can, and I have everything on wheels so that I can move everything around and just roll it around, and it certainly helps when I've got minimal space here, because these modules are, you know, some like 13, 14 foot long. The only thing I'd say to you is make sure if ever you decide to build a boat, you've got plenty of room, because you're going to need it. You're going to need every friggin' square inch. Now I've just moved about 50 things out to make sure that I can clear these guys out that door, and that was in compressors, paint spray guns, you know, resin pots, the works. You need to be able to move, and everything on wheels. So do yourself a favour, if you're going to build anything and you've got a concrete floor, make yourself about 4 or 5 big trolleys on 2.4 metre by 1.2 metre plywood sheets, as I've done, and I can pretty much move everything on my own. Normally what I do is I would grind this excess off. You can see here there's a definite line as to where the gel coat ends, and this is just excess. It would be advisable to grind it off. I'm a little bit short of time today, so I'm going to do it outside. I don't want to be grinding in here, but I would normally grind this off with a grinder with a diamond cut wheel and do that. But today I'm just going to demold this one as quickly as I can, and hopefully this process will be a bit interesting to you, but I'm sure you've seen it before. We're going to see it again. Okay. First tip, never ever demold anything without a pair of decent gloves on. I almost cut my friggin' hand off, slipped one day on it with a wedge, and it basically ran right down the inside of my hand and slit me open. You definitely need to wear a decent pair of gloves. These little plastic wedges can be bought just about anywhere. Any composite shop or any sort of hardware generally sells some type of wedges. I prefer to use nylon than timber. I do use some timber ones occasionally. Things like plastic paint stirrers make good wedges for removing these sorts of moulds, particularly when this one's pretty thick. This is probably about 5 mil thick, so you need something a little bit substantial. You don't want to be fluffing around with bits of cardboard at this level. So simply putting it in, you can see here I found a little spot here, and a simple light tap will begin to demold it. Work your wedge along right up to the corner, taking care not to destroy your corner, because that's a fairly heavily reinforced area in there, and then continue to work along the other way. There's a little crack then. You're not going to hear the crack, but it's cracking. Yep. Now that I've released the entire top section here, I'm then going to come work down the side here. And this can be a little bit challenging because there's some pretty unusual shapes here. Eventually you're going to get released, and then continue to go all the way around the mould. And the secret weapon is this air gun. Remembering the other day I drilled a couple of holes into the tops of the treads of the steps, I can now use this to assist me in releasing it. Yep, that just cracked. So the air hose is such a good tool. Alright, so this is pretty much of what I would consider to be released. I should be able to coerce it off the mark. Easier said than done. It's always a nightmare. Nice and gently. You don't want to damage your good work. Remembering it's got to lift upwards and forwards. Oh, it's almost there. Ah, finger it. No. Alright. Okay. It's the moment of truth here. And so here we go. All right. Alright, so I've just been upstairs and located all the templates. This is a mirror template that's going to go here. So, looking good. Okay, I've got some step templates. These will be a nice teak with a routed ridge in them for grip. But it's just working out where everything goes, I guess. Oh, look at that. Look at that, team. Yes. Beautiful. And this one's still a bit dodgy, it's just MDF, but give you the idea. Again, up here, we've got a permanent mirror frame. I've actually got the templates for the mirror frame as well, so that'll be made out of a nice sort of rosewood or something. And down here, the step treads. Just absolutely brilliant. And you know, the finish, once I give that a buff, is going to be perfect. Very, very happy boy here in my factory. I'm stoked today. Very, very stoked. Let's crack that other one out, eh? Right, number two, the port side cabin module. Now, I'm going to tell you, I've cheated a little bit here. I've already had a bit of a hack at it, and it was a bit of a bugger because all these areas in here are incredibly strong and tight. Release was going to be a bit of a bugger, so to speed this up a bit, I've already had a bit of a go and got it primarily released. I'm just going to get it one last go. And I've had a go at the air gun already. I've already released around the side here. Hurly durly. Oh, hurly durly. That's alright, come here. I'll put this on. What do we got here? It's the bedrooms. Nice. That's it. How's that? Okay, so it's upside down and inside out. But that's the bottom, that's the top. What I love about it is that it has a really big flange on it, so there's very little chance of me damaging the actual surface. I can see here there's a little bit of red gel coat that's come off the mould, but because my gel is about 18mm thick, or 1.8mm thick, I've got enough material there to polish and end up with a perfect finish without actually getting back to glass. Because the last thing you want to do is go into a process where you're having to repair gel coat. But yeah, very, very happy with this result as well. I'm a little bit of a happy boy this morning, so nothing like cracking stuff off the mould to make you happy, as long as it's all right. If it's not happy, a couple of guys used to work for me, Matt and Trace, used to run for cover when I demoulded because of the mood that I'd be in if it wasn't good. Now, if you end up with imperfections, there's nothing worse than spending a week's work on two modules like this, popping them off, and they're rooted. Okay, and then I've got the step treads here. I mean, how the guys didn't lose all this stuff compared to them. Look at this. How good is that? So that's my template for my my step treads. Someone just suggested, Joel, the joinery guy across the road here, just suggested I want to make some carbon steps. Yeah, I guess the only thing is they're going to scratch, and scratch carbon looks worse than like not having carbon at all sometimes. But you know, who knows? Who knows what could happen here on the mould? Check you later, guys.